These are my favourite 3DS games that I've played so far. Hello and welcome back to the channel. I hope you're having a good day. Yes, today we're going to be talking about the 3DS again. Towards the start of this year, I really got into 3DS, collecting a lot of games, trying to play through the ones I'd missed, and today I want to talk about my favourite games that I've played on the 3DS so far. We're going to jump right in, but just before we do, let me know down in the comments what your favourite 3DS games are, and we can see if we like the same ones. Okay, so we're going to start off with a game which is actually a game that I did get into back when the 3DS was popular, so I actually enjoyed this game at the right time for it, and that is Monster Hunter 4 Ultimate. So this really is the first game that I can remember properly getting into on the 3DS, and probably one of the only games that I got into on the 3DS at the time that it was really popular. I'd previously played Monster Hunter Freedom Unite on the PSP. There are a lot of games that I quite liked on the PSP, but Freedom Unite was probably one of my favourites for sure. But then after that I missed out on sort of like Monster Hunter 3, and I don't know if there are any other games in between there, but I came across 4 Ultimate was coming out on the 3DS, and so I picked it up to have another go. It just so happened that when I picked it up, I had a week off work, and I basically just played it for the entire week. I remember there was a particular streamer, I can't quite remember the name, I think it was something like Video Game Relay, and they were playing Monster Hunter 4 Ultimate as well. And they were doing a challenge where the more you donated, the longer they played for, and so they were basically on for almost the entire week that I was playing as well. And so it was really fun putting that stream on, playing along. They were much further ahead of me, so I could see these cool monsters and cool armor and weapons that they were getting. And of course there were people talking in chat, and it just became this sort of fun experience for the week, watching and playing along at the same time. And when I wasn't in the house and I wasn't able to watch, I still took my 3DS around with me that week, just in case I was able to get any chance to play, because I really was into it that much at the time. I did get really into that gameplay loop of hunt monsters, try and get the right materials to forge something new, get better armor and weapons, and then go and fight tougher monsters. I got really into that for a while. But also I think that the intro to Monster Hunter 4 Ultimate really helped me as well. It really got me into it. You start by sailing over this sea of sand, and I already thought that sailing over the sand was cool, but then you get attacked by this giant sand monster, and it was just a bit of a spectacle, and it was a bit of a step up really from what I remember seeing in Freedom Unite, and from there basically I was hooked. This was also the first time that I really tried out the online capabilities of either a Monster Hunter game or the 3DS itself. I didn't know anybody else who played the game, but it was really fun teaming up with randoms to do the online quests, checking out what armor they had, seeing what weapons they used, and it also helped me to beat some of the quests that I was a bit stuck on, you know, teaming up with people online. This is the Monster Hunter game that I played the most for sure. I did play World later, and I have played Rise, but I didn't get into either of them as much as I got into 4 Ultimate. It just happened to be, I think, the right time in my life to get really into a game like that. And I find that these days anyway, I don't really get stuck into games quite as much as I did. So Rise and World, I didn't play quite as much, but yeah, 4 Ultimate was kind of my favourite Monster Hunter. I think I played something like 90 hours, which is a lot for me, but I know that's not really even a lot for a Monster Hunter game. There are people with hundreds of hours in those games. Possibly my favourite game on the 3DS, and the first game on this list. Okay, so the next game I want to talk about is Pokemon Alpha Sapphire. I've always been a Pokemon fan. I have played every Pokemon game. I've not always finished every Pokemon game, but I have bought every single one. I've played them all. And I think that Alpha Sapphire, or Omega Ruby, but I had Alpha Sapphire, is one of my favourites of the modern era, although Pokemon Soul Silver is still my favourite one. It's the best one. I'll die on that hill. It's definitely my favourite. The third generation though does have a sort of special charm to me, I think. My brother and I used to play all the Pokemon games together, all the early ones. I had Yellow, he had Red, I think I had Crystal and he had Gold, and then I got Ruby and he got Sapphire. And Gen 3 always felt a bit different to Gen 1 and 2. I really liked the music in that one as well, and the Pokemon started to change a bit, and there was a lot of focus on water, which I quite liked as well. And then just be able to go back and play that in a remake with sort of the 3DS graphics, similar to Pokemon X and Y. I really enjoyed that style of Pokemon. It's not quite proper 3D in the sense that, you know, Sword and Shield or Scarlet and Violet are 3D, but it is a step in that direction. And they did introduce some fun new things. I really enjoyed soaring over the Hoenn region as your method of flying, and I kind of wish they brought that back at some point. Although I do think they made some slightly odd choices in that game, so I know a lot of people wanted to have the Battle Tower back, and I kind of thought it was weird that you got given one of the legendary birds so soon in the game. I thought that was a bit of an odd choice, because for me, part of the fun of getting legendaries is having it later. You know, if you have a legendary for the whole game, it's not quite as special. So I thought that was an odd choice, but overall, I really liked the game. And of course, Gen 3 introduced one of my favourite Pokemon, which is Milotic. Although I didn't actually discover Milotic until the Cynthia fight in Diamond and Pearl, but now that sort of I'm aware of Milotic, I always try and get a Feebas in Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire. Another big RPG for the list then. Can you tell that I like big RPGs? This is Fantasy Life on the 3DS. So we're moving on now to games that I only really played recently. I always kind of wanted to play Fantasy Life. It was one of those that I'd seen and wanted to pick up and never got around to. And then when I started to play my 3DS much more this year, that is one of the games that I picked up and I've been playing, and I'm still kind of playing on and off. It's a very big game, so I'm sorry I haven't finished it. I think the story of the game is really quite charming, but obviously the big appeal of the game is there's just so much to do in it. There's so many classes that you can play. You can level them all up. They have different quests. They have different ways to play. Combat classes, crafting classes, gathering classes. There really is just so much to do in Fantasy Life. You could spend hundreds of hours in this game, I think, if you wanted. And then there's DLC that goes on top. I did buy the DLC before the eShop went down. I'm looking forward to getting around to that eventually, but I'm not there yet. So far, I've mostly played Paladin. I have unlocked all the classes at this point. I've done all the tutorials for them. But yeah, mostly been playing Paladin to progress through the story. I think I'm coming towards the end of the story now. I've sort of been to all the different regions. They sort of throw curveballs at you a few times, so minor spoilers, but there's a region where they sort of big it up to be a bad guy, and then it turns out not to be bad at all, that kind of thing. And it is a bit cliche, but it's fun. You know, it's a fun story, and if you're not after something too deep and you're just after something kind of relaxing and enjoyable, then it's a good story, and it's a really fun game if you like RPGs and grinding away and improving your class levels. As I say though, I've been really enjoying this one, and I'm quite excited that they've announced a new game on the Switch. The art style looks a bit strange for me just because they've sort of tried to modernize what the first one looked like. I think it looks a bit weird, but I'm still curious and I think I'll pick it up. I'm looking forward to seeing what that's like on the Switch. Okay, so we're going in a slightly different direction now for the next game, and it's Animal Crossing New Leaf. I don't think it should be too much of a surprise to everybody that I went back and tried New Leaf after Animal Crossing New Horizons was my very first Animal Crossing game. Before that I hadn't played a single one until the Switch came out, and like everybody I sort of jumped on that bandwagon over the lockdown period, and then later I wanted to try New Leaf because I heard that a lot of people liked that one, possibly even more than New Horizons. In some ways I do agree, you know, there are some things about New Leaf that I like more than New Horizons, although there are some things about New Horizons I like more. There's good and bad points to both games. On the 3DS though, I really like the way that there seems to be a few more activities to do. The villagers can give you more interesting things to do than just pick up an object and find who it belongs to. They give you petitions to sign, sometimes you go to visit their houses, that kind of thing. They'll ask you for certain items to bring. And I also really like the way that New Leaf has sort of these mini games. So you can go to an island to do mini games. There's like fishing mini games, bug catching ones, there's mazes, that kind of thing. You pick up the right kind of fruit. That sort of gives you a little bit more to do. And then there's also a couple of consoles that you can find in New Leaf. So there's a Wii U console that I do have, and that takes you to a desert island escape game, which I think is really fun. It's sort of this little strategy game that you use your villagers to try and escape. You have to collect the right materials to build a raft to get off the island. And then you can also find a 3DS which you can turn on to play another mini game, but I haven't got that one yet, so I'm not quite sure what the game is on that system. I quite like to find out, so I'm hoping to find that one quite soon. The islanders seem to have more dialogue as well, or at least more varied dialogue, which I enjoy. After a while it sort of felt like you were always having the same conversations on the Switch version of Animal Crossing, so that's a positive there. On the negative side, you know, there are less quality of life features. I do miss crafting from New Horizons, and I do miss being able to move things around and place things everywhere, and I feel like you have more storage in New Horizons as well. The storage feels easier to manage. I still really like New Leaf though, and doing the projects to put new things outside in your island is always fun, although it's just a shame that it's always money that it comes down to in the end. But it's really good, and if you did like New Horizons and you've thought about going back to New Leaf, I think you should give it a go. You know, you might find another game that you can put hundreds and hundreds of hours into. The only real problem I had with New Leaf was that, of course, I played it when nobody else was really playing it anymore. And so I did play it for a little while, but I definitely haven't played it for as long as I played New Horizons, when, you know, everybody was playing it, my partner was playing it, there was a much bigger sense of community. I kind of missed out on that phase of New Leaf, understandably, but it's still one of my favourite games on the 3DS so far. Okay, game number 5 on the list is New Super Mario Bros. 2. And this might be a bit of a surprise. I think a lot of people would maybe expect a game like Super Mario 3D Land to be on the list instead. And I did like 3D Land, but something about the controls, the way Mario controlled, I didn't quite like as much. I think maybe the way you turned around, it might have felt a bit slow to me, whereas New Super Mario Bros. 2, the controls feel really tight and really crisp. You know, you can turn around very quickly, and it just felt a bit smoother to play. So this was actually my first 2D Mario game that I played for I can't remember how long, probably way back on like the Game Boy Color or something like that. I never really got as into 2D Mario as a lot of people did, and I skipped basically all of the games until now. I've gone back to play New Super Mario Bros. 2. I really enjoyed the coin mechanic that they've done. It's just fun, you know, seeing your coin total add up on the bottom of the menu is really fun. And I also really enjoyed the level designs. I thought there was a lot of variety that I really enjoyed, and I could feel myself slowly getting better at the game. Later levels had designs that I think I could tell that I was able to do, but I think I knew that I would have struggled with them if they'd been at the start of the game. I really like that in games. You don't always get that too much these days. You sort of, especially I play a lot of RPGs, and so RPGs are not always really skill based. It's sort of, if you've leveled up you can beat something, and so sort of having that feeling of progressing your skill at the game was really fun for me. It's not something that I've had in a lot of games for a while, I don't think. And the good thing about Mario games, I think, is that skill sort of carries on. So now if I play another Mario game, I'm hoping that I will still have that same feeling of I'm better at the game than I was before. I did unlock the 2 hidden worlds, although I will be honest, I did look up how to do that because I had absolutely no idea at all, so I looked up how to do that, and then I beat all the rest of the game, but I didn't unlock the star world because I think for that you have to get something like 90 of the big star coins, and I'm not really into collecting things in games to unlock the rest of the content. I would like to play those worlds at some point though, so I might go back every now and then and just do a couple of levels here or there, try and get more coins and eventually work my way through to do those star worlds. I can see the idea behind it. You know, if the star worlds is very hard, then you're sort of making sure that players have had enough practice, I suppose, in order to actually do well at it. But at the same time, it does sort of feel a bit like artificially extending the game time, making you hunt for all those coins, and I'm not really into that. But I would be happy to play another 2D Mario game. I'm not really sure which one to go for next. There is one on the Switch, so maybe that one. Let me know if you would recommend a particular 2D Mario game now that I'm sort of getting into that a little bit. Okay, this video was only supposed to be 5 games, but I narrowed it down to 6 and I couldn't really knock one off. I liked all of them just as much and I wanted to talk about all of them. So there is a bonus game and it's Kirby Planet Robobot. I did a whole video on Kirby Planet Robobot. I really enjoyed it. It was my very first Kirby game and I just didn't expect the variety that the game had. The level design was really cool, lots of variety there, but the abilities, the copy abilities that Kirby could get, there were so many of them, and each one seemed to have a lot of depth to it. There was different attacks, and you could sort of master the different styles of the way that these abilities played, and I really enjoyed doing that. I had a few favorites. You know, I really liked the one that turns you into a car and the one that turns you into a plane. I know it's quite basic, but I really enjoyed the sword ability as well. I just like using swords in games, so it kind of makes sense that would be one of my favorites too. And then on top of that, the Robobot mechanic I really enjoyed as well, and I said in my review I kind of wish that you got to play more with that mechanic because it was really fun. It was overpowered, but it was really fun to play, and you could sort of break the environment with it, and you could do more puzzles like unscrewing giant screws and things like that. And I just enjoyed it, and it was really good. And then finally, the final boss of that game was just completely unexpected. It was wild, really. Just went in a direction I never ever would have guessed. And it's something that I'm kind of interested to see if they do in other Kirby games, as the final boss is just as crazy. I am tempted now to play Forgotten Land on the Switch. It's something that I looked at before, but I never really got around to playing. Let me know if you think that would be fun, and if you want me to do a video on it as well, just let me know because I would happily do that. So there we go. Those are my favorite 3DS games that I have played so far, and I do want to say that it is just so far. There's still quite a lot of 3DS games that I haven't got around to playing yet, so if your favorite one isn't there, it doesn't mean I didn't like it, just I might not have played it yet. There are games like Dragon Quest I haven't got round to, Samus Returns from the Metroid series. I haven't even played a lot of the Zelda games on the 3DS yet. I still have a lot to get to. So this list might be completely different in a couple of years' time, and it might be fun to come back to and see how it's changed. If there's any games that you think I should play first, and maybe you'd like me to cover on the channel, please do let me know. I'm always looking for ideas for new videos that you guys would want to watch. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you in the next video.